All right, after some technical difficulties, apologize on that. My computer had an update. Welcome back to Better Odds Sports Betting. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neill.
And I'm Kyle Hunter.
And today we are going to talk about some college football. But first, this episode is being brought to you by BetUS.com for a 100% special Week 1 bonus. Check out BetUS. Use the promo code Better Odds. Terms and conditions and location apply. Kyle, you do a few things for Better Odds yourself these days, I hear.
Yeah, we do the better odds stuff here. We got BetUS college football going on. BetUS college football show with Parker Fleming, Gary Seegers, the host, and myself twice a week, Wednesdays at 5 p.m. and Thursdays at noon Eastern. So subscribe over there if you haven't already. That's been a fun show to do. And I have to say, you can sign up like Kiev just said for BetUS with the special bonus. We are college football. Kiev, you and I have been looking forward to this. Last weekend was just kind of a warm up, and now here's the real thing.
Yeah, definitely a nice little warm up. Meant to say BetUS. The show's great, Kyle. I did watch your episodes. It's fantastic. You guys do a great job. And since we're short on time, we should get right into it. Had a good night, 2-0 last night. Want to get right into North Carolina versus Virginia Tech because it's tonight's game. What a huge game it is. And going to have some Enter Sandman playing tonight at Virginia Tech. Yeah, I'm excited for the game, but man, this spread is kind of we're at my number here. And one thing that I would say is North Carolina did lose a lot of skill positions. Javante and there were a couple of the running backs, and they actually lost a couple wide receivers, but they do return their offensive line. But I got to tell you, I like their quarterback. And I think that the fact that he's got another year on him might prepare him for this atmosphere, Kyle. But to be honest with you, I'm right on this number. It's probably a stay away from me.
Yeah, this is one of those games that's definitely exciting to watch. I'm not going to bet this game. I do think if I had to bet it, I'd probably bet the over. I think both teams could score pretty quickly here. North Carolina has recruited so much better than Virginia Tech that I would be hesitant to take Virginia Tech. At the same time, great home field advantage. You alluded to that. We're going to have a game that's going to be kind of a night game here starting at 6 Eastern and then kind of going into nighttime. It'll be very loud. With the fans back, great atmosphere. And I will say, last night, just watching some of those games, it was great to hear the noise and the atmosphere. Really missed that last year. Last year was only somewhat of a football season, so it's nice to have that back. I think this game is a tough one. It's hard to find anybody who wants to bet Virginia Tech. Everybody's betting North Carolina here. That would caution me if I was laying the points with North Carolina. Almost 80% of the bets on North Carolina, more than 80% of the money. To me, I could only bet the over if I bet this game. Having said that, it's 63.5. So we're not getting any great value or anything. Kiev, I think there's some better values in some of these other games we're talking about.
Yeah, I think so too. And is there any trends for totals in the first week that you happen to look up?
Yeah, in week 1, the under in the past 15 years is 50.5%. So we have a massive sample size. It's almost exactly 50-50. 542 and 532 to the under. And I'm just filtering this out here. If you go conference and non-conference games, the conference games are such a small sample size, but they're a bit more to the under, at least so far. I would probably kind of assume that the conference games would be a bit better to the under because these teams know each other better. Having said that, early in the season, the over has done better than the under if you compare it to late in the season because the weather is usually better. So we always talk about that's something you definitely want to factor in is there any kind of wind or rain going on that makes a big difference to these totals? I think most of these games that we're talking about here today, the weather will probably be pretty good.
Yep, definitely pretty good. Watch for some rain. Obviously, if that stuff comes in late, you'll see a huge movement. You want to be ahead of that movement, too. It's very important here. Total agreement, though. Sam Howell could have the experience to get through this game. They also lost Chaz Surratt on defense. So Virginia Tech is without Herbert, and they did switch quarterbacks themselves. It's just going to be fun to watch that one. Let's move into another game here. We got UTSA at Illinois, and we love the Big Ten. But I'll tell you right now, Illinois surprised me beating Nebraska last week. That was probably the highlight of last week of week 1A or week 0, whatever people want to call it. But in my opinion, Bielema, I'm still not sold on Bielema as a great coach. I don't think he is. I think he did motivate the kids, but they were outgained by 70 yards too. And Nebraska had some boneheaded mistakes last week. Now they're coming into a game where maybe they let down a little bit. Maybe you have something better on this, but unfortunately, I have Illinois 3 points better than UTSA. As high as I am on UTSA and their amazing running back, Sincere McCormick, who's going to have a massive year for them, I still have them lower than a Big Ten team by 3 points. But in saying that, I still probably lean UTSA here. Maybe you can talk me into something.
So I think I like the under in this game is probably my favorite bet. Both of these teams are going to run the football a lot. We know Illinois is going to run with Bielema. He plays very slow. Tempo is not going to be quick at all. UTSA, I would imagine we're going to see a major dose of Sincere McCormick in this one. And I do think UTSA is going to have a very nice season. If they lose a game like this, we may be able to find value betting them here again soon in the future because maybe people get too low on them. I will say, last week's game, watching that Nebraska and Illinois game, I think it was more about Nebraska being bad than Illinois really being very good. I was happy Illinois won. I have Illinois over 3.5 season win total. It has a decent chance now at this point, but I have to tell you, Sidkowski at quarterback for Illinois, I am not buying that he's just all at once this tremendous quarterback. I'm not buying it. I know some people are like, hey, he just needed to be in a different system. He was so bad at Rutgers. That's what worries me as a guy that's wanting Illinois to win 3 more games. Yeah, I don't think Sidkowski can keep doing that. I know Peters is supposedly back at practice, but I think Sidkowski will play in this one. I don't think that he's a good quarterback, and I think we'll see that in time. Now, UTSA's defense, I think will be good enough to slow Illinois down. I think both teams can score here, but I think it takes them a long time to score. I don't think we'll see a lot of home runs in this one like you would expect to see in the North Carolina game. So I think conservative play calling. I know this game, Kiev, earlier in the week, there was UTSA +7. I would have liked UTSA +7. This is a spot where now you get down to 5. That's a pretty big difference. We know how important those numbers are. I truthfully think that this is a stay away from a side perspective. I think the under could be a good look. The under has moved down. It was 52.5 or 53. Now I see 50, some 50.5s. I like the under some here. I'm considering betting this one myself. I haven't bet it yet, but I do think with the kind of running games these two teams have and the lack of big play, explosive passing game, I think the under could be a good look.
And UTSA is down to +4.5 now. So there's some money coming on them in some of these books. What I will say is Illinois did well in the trenches last week. So if they can stop Sincere McCormick and just kind of play around him, and there's a chance that they can get an upset here. So another stay away, unfortunately. But I have a game here that we might not be staying away from, Kyle, and it's one of those Kyle Hunter games because it's under the radar, and I love bringing those up to you because you're the master at them. But I got to tell you, Southern Miss is playing South Alabama. Lots of changes with these teams. I think the spread right now is about South Alabama -1. Total's about 57. I gave this one out 3 to 4 weeks ago. And then I agree with Chris Felica when he was on my show, The Odds Breakers, and he gave this one out as well. But I'm taking South Alabama. And the thing is, for me, they fired their coach, Steve Campbell, but this team wasn't that bad for playing in the Sun Belt. They got 4 wins in the Sun Belt, Kyle. And I have to tell you, the Sun Belt's better than Conference USA now. they've moved up, and Conference USA is the worst conference in football, I think, and in college football in FBS. Hate to say it, but I love Marshall, love UAB, but they're just not as good as your Coastal Carolinas, your App States, and your Louisiana Lafayette's, right? So Jake Bentley's coming in, and that's where the really big handicap. It's Jake Bentley throwing to the experience of the wide receivers, Jalen Tolbert and Jalen Wayne. Those guys have been there. So I like that. Now, the other side of the coin, Southern Miss does return a lot of offensive starters, but they have a new coach in Will Hall coming in from Tulane, and he's going to have a run-first philosophy there, but I think that might play into the new coach over at South Alabama, because Kane Womack was the defensive coordinator, and he's really did some good stuff for Indiana. If you saw this last couple years. So, in my opinion, being at South Alabama handled this team at Southern Miss last year. They have a better quarterback now. I think this is a low spread still at one. And I gave it at plus 1.5, but it didn't move past the three. Take it before it gets to three, couple stars, and lean to the over. What are your thoughts?
So, Southern Miss, obviously Frank Gore Jr. is going to be the main guy. They're going to run the ball a lot with him. South Alabama's run defense is definitely better than their pass defense. So I agree that it kind of plays into that matchup advantage. Bentley is a big step up, from what they've had in the last couple of years. There's one thing that scares me about South Alabama is they allowed 40 sacks last year. So their offensive line has to be a little bit better. They're minus 27 sack margin last year. That's really ugly. This is a South Alabama team that I think should be much better. I agree with you that the higher as far as the defense should improve right away, and the talent improves on offense. So this is kind of a style thing. We say styles make fights, things like that. So this is a South Bama team that I would assume will throw the football better than they did last year. Southern Miss is going to want to run. Will Hall, I think, is a good offensive mind. So I'm not necessarily low on Southern Miss long term, but I don't think Southern Miss really has a good passing game to be able to be. I think they turn one dimensional in a lot of these games running the football. So if I had to bet this game, I'd bet South Alabama. This is not one of my plays, so I'm just going to root for Kiev here on this one.
Oh, well, I appreciate that, my man. And why don't we get into the biggest game of the weekend? Maybe the biggest game for the first half of the year, because it's rare that we get a team like Georgia against a team like Clemson week one. And I think it's fantastic that they're giving this to us. But Kyle, I'm going to let you start this one. Let us know what your 5-star max play is on this one, buddy.
Let me think about the game of the year play that I'm going to have on this one. Obviously, you and I are not that type of people where we have the game of the year on every single thing. And I will say everybody's going to want to bet this game, right? So I think it's important for us to say that there's nothing necessarily wrong with betting some really small amount of money on a game because you're watching it. It's just that, some people try to double up, triple up, you get down a couple games and that's fine. The Sunday night game can be my game that I try to make everything back. That's a real problem. Kiev says it a lot, like a pizza money bet. Something like that is fine for a game like this. I think that the big key here is, can Clemson throw the ball on this Georgia secondary? Because Georgia's run defense is going to be phenomenal. I don't think anybody's going to be able to run the ball very much on Georgia this year. If you look at their two deep on the defensive line, it's shockingly good. Very, very good. I think you could argue that they have the best defensive front of anybody in college football, but their secondary is a bit weak. So then you go to Clemson and you say, can DJ Uyangalele, something like that. I don't want any comments below that I butchered the name if I did.
I think you got it pretty good.
I feel like that was a solid effort. To me, Clemson, they have Justin Ross back. They've got plenty of weapons. I think their quarterback play is going to be very solid. We know that DJ was very highly recruited. This is a guy who played pretty well when he got in there last year. I mean, he was put in a tough spot. I think Clemson can move the ball here. So the question, if you flip the thing around and you say Georgia on offense, we know JT Daniels is a step up from Stetson Bennett, who they had last year. It was shocking to me that Stetson Bennett was there for so long. I think he was a nice story, but just not good enough against the top teams. I'm not sure JT Daniels has a huge upside. I think he's a solid player. I lean Clemson in this game. If I had to bet a side, I'd bet Clemson -3 here. Just making sure 3 is widely available everywhere. But yeah, it looks like 3 is pretty much the predominant line, 50.5 or 51 the total. Kiev, I wanted a reason to bet the under here because this is such a big game. But at 50.5, it's hard to bet an under when you know that Clemson is capable of taking advantage of Georgia's weakness in the secondary. And then on the other end, I don't think Clemson has a dominant defense. Venables is great, obviously, but I don't think Clemson's defense is amazing. Obviously weather won't be an issue in a game like this. So to me, the thing that you want to keep an eye on here is who's going to be out here. We've heard rumors of COVID action on both of these teams. There's going to be a lot of guys out. you don't want to bet much money on this game until you find out who's not going to be playing. So
Right.
we probably won't know that until close to game time. I just know that there are plenty of rumors out there, and Rich is over in the chat right now saying the same thing here. So players out on both sides, um, Georgia tight ends and some Clemson defensive line. Rich Lammons there, Rico DeGaio. Appreciate you chiming in. Um, this is a game that I could only take Clemson if I was betting a side. I wanted to bet the under because it's an important game, but I don't think I can bet the under. Kiev, I have to say, I think this game means more to Clemson, though, because I took more to Georgia. I'm sorry, because Clemson, if they lose this game, the schedule the rest of the way, they still have a pretty easy path to the playoffs, right? Even if they lose this game. Georgia has a really rough schedule. So if you want to argue for Georgia, you could say this game means more to them. However, Dabo's a really good motivator. I would think Clemson will be ready for this game. What do you think about this one?
Well, Kyle, I mean, you covered it so well. I don't even know if I need to say anything, to be honest with you. But what I will say is, you're right. It should mean more to Georgia because their schedule's hard, but it's not as hard as like a normal SEC. They avoid Alabama, they avoid Ole Miss, they avoid Texas A&M from the other side. I'm not sure about LSU. Can't remember. But Florida's got a down year, so at least they have that. But if they lose this game and they lose the SEC title, there's no way they're going to be in the 4-game playoff. If they win this game and lose the SEC title, then they can still get into the 4-game playoff. So that's what you're getting at. Clemson loses this game, they're not losing the ACC title most likely, right? So, and that's the way you have to think right now via your power ratings and how you kind of put everything together. But in my opinion, you nailed it. I mean, you have a better quarterback. DJ Uiagalelei is experienced. He looked pretty well when he came back against Boston College. In that Notre Dame game, he played pretty well. They just lost that game. And he was so young. He's coming back now with some experience here. JT Daniels, don't like him in big games. He loses big games. Dabo Sweeney over Kirby Smart. Are you serious? I lean at 3. Clemson. And if it goes down to 2.5, I'm betting it, but it's not going to. It's staying at 3, and it's not moving. And that total is going between 50 and 51. If it rains, it'll go under, or if there's wind, but there's no chance of it. So 100% agree. Now, Rico DeGaio, thank you for chiming in. Glenn Middleton, thanks for the shout out, my man. Always a big fan. And he wanted Auburn versus Akron. I don't know if he's being serious here, but while you're talking, I quick looked. There is more, like, for some reason, there's 27% of the bets are on Akron, but 68% of the money. I can't imagine it's a lot of money because the spread didn't move. It's still at plus 37.5. So that's not sharp, in my opinion. That's just showing that whoever's bet Akron because they like, maybe they're Akron fans. I don't know. Maybe they're from Ohio. But what I will say is that Auburn's got a new coach in Brian Harsin, and there's a lot of change there. And Akron's super embarrassed from their years before. This is a massive spread. If I was going to lean anyway, I'd have to lean Auburn, but not touching it.
Yeah, I think this is probably a systems play, Kiev, where somebody's just taking a massive underdog with a total that's not really that high. So you're taking a plus 37.5 with a total of 55 or 55.5. So having said that, when you look on the board, there's almost no bets on that game. So,
Yeah.
nobody else is going to be talking about that game. I'm fine with talking about it. I will say I like Auburn under for the season win total. That's the play that I like there in that one. I think under 7 is a good bet. Auburn changing systems. Bo Nix, we've seen what he is at this point. I don't think he's going to have some great resurgence here. They're a run-first team. They don't have the strong defensive line they've had in the past. So I would bet Auburn under for the season win total and pass on this game.
All right, pass on that game. Shocking that Kyle's passing on an Akron game versus Auburn. These two schools are the most least predictable. But I love this. I don't know if he was serious. Shout out to Sean here, one of our cappers, chiming in a little bit too. We got time for one more game in Florida State versus Notre Dame. I should say Notre Dame versus Florida State because it's in Florida State. I mean, this spread's 7.5. To be honest with you, I have it at 7.25 or something like that. I'm pretty much right on the spread here, but I was looking at the total, Kyle, and I was trying to talk myself into it with Brad Powers earlier this week because the way I look at it is Mackenzie Middleton's used to playing fast. Florida State's coach, Mike Norvell, played super fast at Memphis. Does he jump right into that versus a team like Notre Dame? Notre Dame only returns 4 on defense. I hate betting overs the first week, but this is a non-conference in general, right? Not Notre Dame, Florida State on conference. It's Notre Dame's still an independent school, type of situation here. So, I'm leaning to the over is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. The interesting thing to me about this game is Florida State has only gotten 42% of the bets, but 74% of the money here. I think if you like Florida State, you take any 7.5 you see right now, because I think this is going to be a flat 7 everywhere here pretty soon. I do see quite a few 7s already. I think you take 7.5 if you like Florida State. My lean would be Florida State in this game because I think there's a ton of questions about both teams. And if you tell me you don't really know how good either team can be, but you give me a team getting 7.5 points, I have to lean that way. My number has this one at 7. So, both of us have this right about where it is. My total for this game was 56.5. So I guess if I had to bet a total, I would bet the over here. This is one where Florida State has plenty of potential. We know that they could bounce back. We don't know that they will. I think this is a really key season for a team like Florida State. Now, Notre Dame lost a lot from last year, also lost a great defensive coordinator. So I think Notre Dame is also a team that I'm not quite as high on as some people here this year. So in my power ratings, I have them lower than most people do. Having said that, I'm not really high on Florida State. So I'm looking to grab a number if I'm taking Florida State rather than really being excited to back them in this game. I think this will be a good game. Kiev, I'm excited that we've got a game there, Notre Dame, Florida State, and then the next night we have Louisville in Mississippi. So we got some good college football here happening this week.
We have some great college football, and we have some premium plays over at the Odds Breakers, starting off the week nicely at 2-0. What I do want to finish out with is I'm not even sure if Mackenzie Milton's starting because Norvell is not going to announce it, and I think he's smart to not announce it. I'd be shocked if it's not Milton, but Florida State went 6-3 to the over last year. Notre Dame was probably, I think they were 6-6 right in the button. The thing that worries me is Florida State's offensive line. If they get pummeled by Notre Dame, there's a chance that they're not scoring. But hey, Mackenzie Milton coming out there, they need this game really bad. I'm going to lean to the over just because I see what Florida State's doing. But the fact that this game's on an island, maybe you take your pizza money that you bet on Georgia or Clemson, and if you win that, you change that into like better than Busch Light money, maybe some nice IPA beer money for this game. And if you win that, heck, you can get a whole half barrel for the Ole Miss game on Monday.
Yeah, roll it over, right?
Yeah, keep rolling that thing, right? Money line roll over the pizza bet. See what happens. Now, have some fun. But the thing is, this game is standing on an island. It's its own game. It's going to be very bet. If you like the over, take it Saturday night because the money's going to start coming in on the over no matter what. But I'm hoping that some contrarians come in and knock it down a little bit. I want to get a 54. I doubt that's going to happen. But if it does, then I will be a real player on this side, Kyle.
Yeah, I don't think 54 will happen, but I do think that betting it before it gets right before game time is a good idea. I think it's important for us to say that usually a lot of people like to bet over and favorite when you get close to a game. So you just keep that in mind when you think about even college football or the NFL. That's what the public likes. The public's going to be heavily involved in a lot of these games that we're talking about. So keep that in mind. Try to get to the best of the number, and everybody enjoy all the games this weekend. There's a lot of great action on.
Absolutely. And you make sure you check us out at the Odds Breakers. We have lots of handicappers going on, lots of plays. We do some free plays, but our best plays are always reserved for our premium subscribers. Everyone's heating up right now. Some great guys over there. Kyle, what's going on at Hunter Sports Picks?
Yeah, you can go to Hunter Sports Picks, check out my premium packages. I have the early bird special still up here for a couple more days for the college football season. Also, sign up for the free picks newsletter over there if you haven't already. A lot of free picks go out by newsletter. Those have done really well. And follow me on Twitter at Kyle Hunter Picks if you don't already as well.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for subscribing. Obviously, tweet us if you have a question about any of these games. We love answering them. We'll do our best what we can do. If it's a premium play, we might have to shy off, but just tweet us and see what's out there. Everyone enjoy this weekend. It's just college football on an island. So watch this football. Remember, the NFL is not distracting you, and go get some winners.